Alright, chat. We are... Alright, chat. Today we are in Kingdom Hearts, and we are in a level... we're in part... We are in part 25. We are to Wonderland from the movie... From a 13th full-length anime European and wackiest classic for almost 75 years in the making, Alice in Wonderland. Alright, let's get to ship. The green cursor shows your current position. Select your next destination with a cursor. Observe the battle level when selecting destinations. More means stronger harvest in that world. We carry a different word than a gummy ship.
The Harley ships often give us a hard time.
Always be on our lookout. Turn flight.
Your journey will be documented until you reach your destination.
Seek out a mission each one has to offer.
Control the gummy ship with the left stick. Tilt it up to descend and tilt down to ascend. Descend and tilt down to ascend.
Now blow down, sir. If it reaches zero, it's back to the departing point.
Oh, never mind. Dun da 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 dun da 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 dun da da. Da 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 da.
And here we are. Oh man, this is just like in the movie where Alice was dreamt she was chasing by a white rabbit and then fell way down to the rat hole to magical world Wonderland.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I'm here. I should be there. Oh, I'm late. Oh, the queen. She'll have my head for sure.
Okay, so here's the story of this. Hold on. See, here's that. Walt Disney was supposed to make his first film, Alice, which was supposed to star Mary Pickford as Alice, but she chose not to do the film, and instead did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. However, the idea was eventually revived in the 1940s. Following the success of Snow White, the film was originally intended to be a live-action animated film, but Disney decided it would be fully animated feature film. During its production, many sequences adapted from Carroll's book were later omitted, such as Jabberwocky, the White Witches, Mock Turtle, and Griffin. The story of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was an 1865 English children's novel by Lewis Carroll, a mathematics don at the University of Oxford. It details the story of a girl named Alice who falls through a rabbit hole into a fantasy world of anthropomorphic creatures. It is seen as an example of the literary nonsense genre. The artist John Tenniel provided 42 wood engraved illustrations for the book. See, here it is. It received positive reviews upon release and is now one of the best known works for Victorian literature. In its narrative, structure, characters. Yo, DJ, thanks for popping in. What's going on? Have had a widespread influence on popular culture and literature, especially in the fantasy genre. Oopsies. Genre. It is credited as a helping in an era of didactism in children's literature. In our game, an era in which writing for children and aim to delight or entertain. The tale plays with logic, giving the story lasting popularity with adults as well as with children. The titular character Alice shares her name with Alice Little, a girl Carroll knew. For scholars disagree about the extent to which the character was based upon her. The book has never been out of print and has been translated into 174 languages. Its legacy includes adaptation to screen radio, visual art, ballet, opera, and musical theater, as well as theme parks, board games, and video games. Carroll published a sequel in 1871 entitled Through the Looking Glass and shortened version of young children, The Nursery Alice, in 1890. In a nursery Al. In Nursery Alice, the work was not merely a shortened and simplified version along the lines of J.C. Gorham's 1905 Alice's Adventures in Wonderland retold in words of one syllable. It is written as though the story is being read aloud by someone who also talking to the child listener with many interpolations by the author, pointing out details in the pictures and asking questions such as, which would you have liked the best? Do you think to be a little tiny Alice no larger than a kitten, or a great tall Alice, with your head always knocking against the ceiling? Additions such as an anecdote about a puppy called Dash, an explanation of the word of foxglove. The Nursery of Alice was an abridged version of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. It was by Lewis Carroll, adapted by the author himself for children from 0 to 5. It includes 20 of John Tenniel's illustrations from the original book, redrawn in large colored, and in some cases revised by Tenniel himself. The book was published by Macmillan a quarter century after the original Alice. It features new illustrated front and back covers in full color by E. Gertrude Thompson, who was a good friend of Carroll. The book was engraved and imprinted by the famous color printer Edmund Evans. Moving on. See here with this book, it's right over there. See this? Wait, no, can't. Right there on this book, it was called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was conceived on 4th July 1862 when Lewis Carroll and the Reverend Robinson Duckworth rode the River Isis with the 3 young daughters of Carroll's friend Henry Liddell, Lorena Charlotte, Alice Pleasant, and Edith Mary. The journey began at Folly Bridge, Oxford, and ended 5 miles upstream at Godstow, Oxfordshire. During the trip, Carroll told the girls a story that he described in his diary as Alice's Adventures Underground, which his journal says he undertook to write for Alice. Alice Liddell recalled that she asked Carroll to write it down. Unlike other stories he had told her, this one she wanted to preserve. She finally received the manuscript more than 10 years later. On July 4th, known as a golden afternoon, prefaced in a novel as a poem. In fact, the weather around Oxford on 4th July was cool and rather wet, although at least one scholar has disputed this claim. Scholars debate whether Carroll in fact came up with Alice during the golden afternoon, or whether the story was developed over a longer period. Carroll had known the Liddell children since around March 1856. When he befriended Harry Liddell, he had met Lorena by early March as well. In June 1856, he took the children out on the river. Robert Douglas Fairhurst, who wrote a literary biography of Carol, suggests that Carol favored Alice Pleasance led a parody. Alice is a character in Dream Children, a Reverie, a prose piece by Charles Lamb. Carol, an amateur photographer by the late 1850s, produced many photographic portraits of the little children, and especially of Alice, of which 20 survive. For the script, Carol began writing a manuscript of the story that the next day, although the earliest version is lost. The girls and Carol took another boat trip a month later. When he elaborated the plot of the story to Alice, and in November, he began working on the manuscript in earnest. To add the finishing touches, he researched natural history. Sorry, y'all. I had something on my throat. Anyways, natural history in connection with the animal. Elaborate to the plot of the story to Alice, and in November he began working on the manuscript in earnest. To add the finishing touches, he researched a natural history in connection with the animals presented in the book, and then had the book examined by other children, particularly those of George MacDonald. Though Carroll did add his own illustrations to the original copy on publication, he was advised to find a professional illustrator so that the picture were more appealing to his audience. He subsequently approached John Tenniel to reinterpret his visions through his own artistic eye, telling him that the story had been well liked by the children. Carroll began planning a print edition of the Alice story in 1863. He wrote on May 9th, 1863, that MacDonald's family had suggested he publish Alice. A diary entry of 2nd July says that he received a specimen page of the print edition around that date. On November 26, 1864, Carroll gave Alice the manuscript of Alice's Adventures Underground. With illustrations by Carroll, decided it is as a Christmas gift to dear child in a memory of summer's day. The published version of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is about twice the length of Alice's Adventure Underground, and includes episodes such as Mad Hatter's Tea Party or Mad Tea Party that do not appear in the manuscript. The only manuscript copy of the Underground was held in the British Library Macmillan. It was published as facsimile of the manuscript in 1886. Right. Okay. See, the story in Lewis Carroll's book, the story of Alice as a young was sit bored by a riverbank and spotted a white rabbit, well, with a pocket watch and waistcoat, lamenting that he was late. Surprised, Alice followed him down a rabbit hole, which sent her into a lengthy plummet, but to a safe landing. Inside a room with a table, she found a key to a tiny door, beyond which is a garden. While pondering how to fit through the door, she discovered a bottle labeled "Drink Me." Alice drank some of the bottle's contents, and to her astonishment, she shrank small enough to enter the door. However, she had left the key upon the table, and cannot reach it. Alice then discovers and eats a cake labeled "Eat Me," which causes her to grow to a tremendous size. Unhappy, Alice bursts into tears, and the passing white rabbit flees in a panic. Dropping a fan and 2 gloves, Alice uses the fan for herself, which causes her to shrink once more and leaves her swimming in a pool of her own tears. Within the pool, Alice meets various animals and birds who convene on a bank and engage in a caucus race. To dry themselves following the end of a race, Alice inadvertently frightened the animals away by discussing her cat. The White Rabbit appeared looking for the gloves and fan, mistaking Alice for his maidservant. He ordered her to go to his house and retrieve them. Alice found another bottle and drinks from it, which causes her to grow to such an extent that she got stuck in the house. Attempting to extract her, the White Rabbit and his neighbors eventually take to hurling pebbles that turn into small cakes. Alice eats one and shrinks herself, allowing her to flee into the forest. She met a caterpillar seated on a mushroom and smoking a hookah. A hookah is like a water pipe, and a single or multi-stem instrument is for heating or vaporizing and then smoking either tobacco or flavored tobacco. It was based before inhalation. It's a Persian vision of Akbar. It was back in the Indian city. Moga, India. And it was during the caterpillar's questioning, Alice begins to admit to her current identity crisis, compounded by her inability to remember a poem. Before crawling away, the caterpillar says that a bite of one side of the mushroom will make her larger, while a bite from the other side will make her smaller. Perpetually grinning Cheshire Cat. The Duchess baby, whom she hands to Alice, transformed into a piglet, which Alice released into the woods. The Cheshire Cat appeared to Alice and directs her toward the Hatter and March Hare. Before disappearing, leaving his grin behind, Alice finds the Hatter, March Hare, and a sleepy dormouse in the midst of a tea party. The Hatter explained that it is always 6 o'clock p.m., claiming that time is standing still as punishment for the Hatter trying to kill it. A conversation ensues around the table, and the real why is Raven like a writing desk is brought up. Alice impatiently decides to leave, calling the party stupid. Noticing on a door on a tree, Alice passes through and finds herself back in the room from the beginning of her journey. She took the key and used it to open the door to the garden, which turned out to be the croquet court of the Queen of Hearts, whose garden consists of living playing cards. Alice participates in a croquet game in which hedgehogs are used as balls, flamingos are used as mallets, and soldiers act as hoops. The Queen was short-tempered and constantly orders beheading. When the Cheshire Cat appears, as only a head, the Queen ordered his behead, only to be told that such an act is impossible. Because the cat belonged to the Duchess, Alice prompted the Queen to release the Duchess from prison to resolve the matter. When the Duchess ruminates on finding morals in everything around her, the Queen dismissed her on the threat of execution. Alice then met a griffin and a mock turtle who dance to the lobster quadrille while Alice recites a poem. The Mock Turtle sings them beautiful soup, during which the Griffin dragged Alice away for a trial, in which the knave of stand accused of stealing the Queen